Baseball has been considered America's national pastime for years. With the rich history, it is no surprise that baseball is even more popular today. However, all of this came at a cost. For every victory, there is a bitter defeat. For every champion, there were those who tried to stop him. Baseball has left its mark on American history, and will probably be around for many more years.
Can do. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Before the mid-18th century, sports such as rounders and cricket served as throwing games and entertained the nation. It wasn't until 1845 when a man named Alexander Joy Cartwright wrote the first set of rules for baseball. Using these basic rules, he played the first official game of baseball with his team, the New York Knickerbockers, against a local cricket team.
That ball, a solid mile, yeah, boy.
Yes, Jackie, hit that ball.
During the Civil War, baseball began to grow more popular among soldiers who were unable to maintain the high-maintenance fields required for cricket. Having played it during the war, many soldiers brought the game with them when they returned home and began to form local teams.
The other team is through.
Did you see Jackie Robinson hit that?
Teams began to improve on the rules that Cartwright originally established. In 1857, rules such as ending the game at 9 innings, establishing the distance between each base as 90 feet, being called out when a ball is caught without bouncing, and missing the ball 3 times while at bat, leading to the similar fate, were all added. Over time, the sport began to gradually organize itself. The first baseball league, the National Association of Professional Baseball Players, brought forth a new era for baseball. Player salaries were beginning to be established, with the highest being equal to $23,000 calculated for inflation.
Hit that ball, did he hit it? Yes, and that ain't all he saw.
In 1876, William Holbert, president of a team originally part of the first baseball league, formed the National League out of the ruins of the National Association after it closed. It included many of the same teams as the National Association, and it is considered a direct predecessor. For years, the National League went unchallenged until the American Association was formed in 1881. The Player League formed in 1884, and the Union Association formed in 1891. Each of these leagues slowly fell one by one as a result of each other's competition. Eventually, the American Association merged with the National League to form a 12-team league, which was eventually reduced to 8 due to poor ticket sales. When the National League reduced the amount of teams, a minor league named the Western League saw its opportunity to make itself known. Made up of the teams that were removed from the National League and newly formed teams, the American League was created. Two years after the American League formed, the National League began to lose control over baseball. Realizing they would never fully regain control, they chose to attempt to align themselves with their competitors. In 1903, the National League and the American League signed the National Agreement. This agreement stated that the two leagues would coexist, with both of their champions battling it out at the end of the season in the World Series. Following this agreement, baseball enjoyed a sort of renaissance, boasting great players such as Babe Ruth. George Herman Ruth was originally part of the Boston Red Sox, but was eventually sold to the New York Yankees. While part of the Yankees, Ruth set dozens of hitting records, most importantly, beating his own record for most home runs about 5 consecutive seasons.
There's magic in the ivy in the old scoreboard. The same when I stared at as a kid keeping score.
The primary reason for the success of the American League and the National League can be attributed to the reverse clause. The reverse clause was part of the player contract that basically stated the team owned the player. Unless traded, the player may not leave the team, such as what was done with Babe Ruth. The reverse clause was eventually banned after massive player protests. In the midst of all these power changes hit the Negro Leagues. The Negro Leagues were baseball leagues that consisted of anyone who did not meet the National League and the American League racial standards. Most Negro Leagues were not successful, and they were all made irrelevant when the color barrier was broken in both the National League and the American League.
United we'll fall down to our knees today we win it all.
The color barrier in baseball was one of the most notable racial prejudice in America. It stood for many years and was not officially broken until 1947. On April 15th of that year, Jackie Robinson joined the Brooklyn Dodgers, officially destroying the color barrier. This was the start of a racial revolution in baseball, which eventually allowed Black, Hispanic, and Asian players to enter the league.